This episode of the Tom Retro Chronicle is brought to you by the song called Local Forecast by the artist called Kevin MacLeod. I hope I pronounced that right, but you can go to incompetech.com for royalty-free music and check them out. Yeah.
A 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5. It is the Tom Retro Chronicle with your host called Tom Retro.
Looking good, baby!
Tom Retro is also known as the Retro Guy and has a very interesting angle on things like sports, music, movies, books, and pretty much mostly life. He has a WordPress account, a very funny Twitter account, and overall a very interesting guy. Yeah. And also has very interesting interviews like me, Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah. So let's head it to our very own very special host called Tom Retro.
Get a little bit some groove on there. Oh yeah. And welcome back to episode 24 of the Tom Retro Chronicle. And this is pretty much the start of the second season of me doing podcasts. Pretty much I started doing this whole thing about July 31st of last year, so it's been a little bit over a year since I started doing this little special thing that I kind of like to do. I haven't done an episode since the May 8th, which is probably about around closest time that I haven't done something like this for a while. I got pretty much after May 8th, I got a little bit busy moving out of my previous apartment, which was, so to speak, a little bit more arduous of a task of trying to get my stuff out of a new apartment and into the one that I'm in right now, and basically where I'm talking from. So, I pretty much spent most of the entire month working on that, plus working on my new job, as I mentioned before in May. I'm still working there at Kohl's, and I'm in general pretty happy with the job. It's still retail. You still get to deal with a good number of people that want to shoot lasers out of your eyes or something like that, but it's still a pretty good job. I think people are a little bit more what's the word? Caring, I suppose. But yeah. So I'm still doing that. Pretty much this past week marked my third month anniversary of me being hired there and then working there. So I don't know. It's been pretty good. But anyway, back to sort of the apartment thing. Essentially, it took me a little bit longer to move all my stuff into the one I'm living at right now because the person who lived here previous to me decided to just wait until the last minute to put all of his stuff together and then move out, because apparently he was trying to get another apartment with the same landlady that I worked with, so getting my stuff in. So in general, if I have to live here for at least until June, I think I'd just rather just stay here for quite longer than a year, I suppose. But it's it's pretty good. Um, but before I get into a little bit more in depth with the apartment, just pretty much this entire episode is just gonna be basically me talking about what I've done since May 8th, I suppose, which has been quite a bit of stuff that has happened in my life so far from that point to right now. Yeah, back to the apartment, but essentially it's a one bedroom place. I mean, it's not even close to basically what I lived at in terms of a bachelor pad. I mean, if the apartment that I lived in previous to that was a huge, I don't know what I would call it, like a girl magnet. This place has to be at least something that girls will be like, oh my gosh, yes, I just wanna. Oh my god, but yeah, this is pretty much the biggest bachelor pad that I've ever had. So at this point, I suppose, but um, actually, where I'm talking at right now, there is an island, which definitely is a plus. I never really expected anything like that to happen in my life. So a lot more cabinet space, like at least 3 times the cabinet space than I had previous to where I live at. There's also a dishwasher. There's a built-in microwave. So I'm pretty spoiled right here. So then I still have that couch that you probably may have seen when I used to do some of my singing videos. That's behind me. Of course, that was behind me, of course, and the couch is still here. So I get to sit on that. Yeah. Pretty much the rent is about around $575, which pretty much includes garbage, heat, water, cable, internet, and pretty much the rest of that stuff. So I at first thought I was gonna pay for electricity, but I guess that comes with it too. So of course I haven't had management come down to me and say you got to pay for electricity and such. So I'm pretty sure I'm like, hey, if I don't have to pay for electricity, I mean that's definitely a plus for me. So pretty much I get all that, which is not exactly a bad deal. I mean, it's a little bit more expensive than the $315 per month that I paid for at the mini bachelor pad. So roughly that's with the bills that I had to pay. Like I had to pay for electricity and cable, internet. So at the previous place. So usually that came around to at least almost 500 at least. So not too bad of a trade that I had to sacrifice my leg and arm just to live here. So let's see what else has been going on in my life so far. Yeah. Pretty much after about a week after I moved in, I became pretty sick. So I pretty much had to take a good couple of days off from work. Pretty much what started out was as an upset stomach, ended up being pretty much something a lot more severe, so to speak. Pretty much it started on around Sunday the 9th, was it? It was on June 9th of sorts, but and pretty much, and then on Monday the 10th, I started to feel a little bit some pain, and eventually it started to become a little bit more severe pain. I suppose a little bit more moderate pain, because I could somewhat tolerate it, but to the point where I can just sleep away from it, it's just, no, started around 8 o'clock or so, and then pretty much around midnight, I just decided I couldn't really take it anymore, and pretty much by that point, I was starting to feel the moderate pain in my, it was probably in my lower abdomen, and pretty much I drove myself to the hospital, which certainly if you really thought about it that hard, it was probably not the most wisest thing for me to do, but I don't know, maybe I was trying to prove a point or something, I'm not sure, but yeah, I pretty much drove myself to the hospital, and basically my whole thought process was, well, this could be possibly a couple of things. It could possibly be, it could basically be a stomach bug, something is inflaming my stomach or lower abdomen, or it could be possibly the appendix is enraged and inflamed. So, and pretty much the second option was probably the most option that I felt that would probably be the case, but I wasn't sure, so pretty much went to the doctor, went into the ER, and probably about around 4 hours later after I arrived, I got a CAT scan. But before that, I got an ultrasound, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, so I went in to do a CAT scan, and pretty much what I feared was pretty much the most obvious. It was pretty much an inflamed appendix, and the doctor said pretty much it's got to go. So pretty much about a couple hours later, went into surgery and got an appendectomy, and then about a couple hours after that, after being put to sleep, I felt really sleepy, and pretty much, yeah, you can pretty much figure out what's happened after that. At first I went to the recovery room, and then they put me in a room where I pretty much spent at least a day there in the hospital, so definitely not fun, but you know what, you get a little bit pampered when you go to a hospital. It's I mean, you get food, you get care, you pretty much you get somewhat of a comfy bed. I can't remember all that much of that bed being all that comfy, but and then you pretty much get TV. Pretty much you get your basic cable, and pretty much I watched. I remember the NBA Finals, the Game 3, where the Heat pretty much got blew out. I suppose I'll talk about the NBA Finals maybe sometime in a later episode, but maybe on this one, but I'm not sure. But anyway, back to the subject. But and then pretty much after that, the next day, pretty much I was discharged, and I pretty much went home and pretty much spent a good couple of days, at least 4 to 5 days at home, pretty much recovering from it, and yeah. And pretty much on the 28th, or actually the 27th, I was pretty much did a post-op appointment, and pretty much I was allowed back to work. And then on the next day, here I am pretty much working. Pretty much after 20 days of my last work day. And yeah. Yeah, so pretty much that was pretty much the biggest highlight that I could think of my summer. July for me was pretty pretty quiet. 4th of July, pretty much I spent the 4th working for about 6 hours, and then I went home to hang out with neighbors and such. But in terms of going to see fireworks, I just didn't really. I don't know. I felt a little bit tired after going there. So yeah. So it's pretty much August 2nd, and eventually about a month, pretty much college football will be back. Woohoo! Um, and then NFL is gonna come back. Baseball's going on right now. And then NHL is gonna be back in about a couple months. Then NBA in 3 months. So definitely an exciting time. I will definitely have to say about that. Yeah, in terms of the weather, we had a little bit of a short spurt of hot weather, but pretty much went back to mild summer weather, pretty much in the 70s. I think at least one night, maybe was it last week? I think it was probably last week when we actually had a low in the low, I think it was in the 40s, wasn't it? But anyway, and other than that, pretty much my summer has been pretty relatively quiet, other than moving out, getting an appendectomy, and yeah, not really all that much else to say. Pretty much, I'll talk about a little bit more about sports, since pretty much this is what the podcast is all about. So yeah, let's talk about that and next topic. So I mentioned before about the NBA Finals in the previous topic. Pretty much you had the Spurs and the Heat going at it, and probably one of the better NBA Finals series that I've seen for quite a long time. If you actually read my WordPress post about Game 5, you'll definitely see what was going on throughout that whole entire game, just on my thoughts. And then pretty much Ray Allen shoots that clutch three to win the game, or was that overtime? Maybe it was probably to take it into overtime, I think, probably. So yeah, I think when I really think about that series, which was a good couple months ago, it's been a while. So pretty much you had basically two identical teams that looked very good on paper, and pretty much you knew it could at least get it. You knew that the series could get at least 6 games pretty easily. I mean, you had the Spurs with their big three, and then you had the Heat with their big three, and you just definitely could not say that either the Spurs or the Heat would sweep this series. So I knew it was going to be a lot more different than last year's NBA Finals with the Thunder and the Heat. I think with this series, pretty much it spoke for itself. Pretty much, the two teams traded blows with each other. I mean, Spurs won Game 1, Heat won Game 2, Spurs Game 3, Heat Game 4, Spurs Game 5, and Heat Game 6, and then Game 7 was kind of a little bit more of a letdown, which wasn't that surprising to me, but that's kind of more how sports goes. Pretty much, you built up so much emotion in a game 6, and pretty much usually you just don't get that. You just don't get that emotion in a game 7. But then again, game 7 is probably the biggest 2 words in team sports, as Eric Spoelstra said prior to game 7 on ABC. But I don't know what else to think about this series. I predicted the Heat would win in 6, but could have been the case either way. If I don't know about the Heat. I don't know about the Heat, man. I mean, pretty much after the series, I thought the Heat needed to do a little bit more tinkering with their roster. I thought Bosch should have been shown out the door, but I'm not paid to be an NBA executive. I mean, pretty much if you have Pat Riley as your executive, who has won NBA titles pretty much since the 80s. I don't know. Definitely, if you're a Heat fan, I think you should probably trust Pat Riley's decision making. It's very interesting to think about, but I'm trying to think of what else. Then the NHL Stanley Cup, Finals with the Blackhawks and the Bruins. Very interesting series, to say the least. I thought that series could have gone to at least 7 games, but it pretty much ended up being 6, if I remember right. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Blackhawks were picked were the favorite to beat the Bruins. And pretty much the Bruins pretty much gave them all that they could want for. And pretty much as a Bruins fan, pretty much that 6th game, pretty much with about a minute to go, and pretty much blow pretty much a one goal lead with 2. I think it was a minute to go, at least. Maybe it was 2 minutes, but to blow that much of a lead is quite shocking, to say the least. But definitely congrats to the Blackhawks. Did you see that? I'm pretty sure most people have seen that photo with Justin Bieber sitting on the logo of the Blackhawks, and pretty much started a whole firestorm of Blackhawks fans wanting to, I don't know, damn Justin Bieber, saying that, how dare you touch our logo? How dare you stand on our logo? And that kid needs to be kicked out of America and such. So, and all that kind of stuff. So, and pretty much the most smart thing that the Bruins did during the off season is pretty much limit the space where their logo could be. At. So kind of funny story there. And then there's the Celtics with their little bit of a fiasco with Doc Rivers not wanting to coach for the Celtics next season, and then you have KG, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry going to the Nets. And then you get Brad Stevens to be the new head coach of the Celtics. Pretty much my I do want to comment on those three things, but the first one I want to say is um, in terms of Doc Rivers, I think Doc deserved. Um, I think pretty much Doc earned a right to pretty much say, "Hey, I think I want to get out of here." Um, Pretty much, he led the Celtics from being one of the worst teams in the league in 2006, 2007 to become NBA champions in the next season. And pretty much he's done more for the franchise since the Celtics big three in the 80s with Bird, McHale, and Parrish. So very interesting take on that. Bill Simmons, who is pretty much an avid Celtics fan, and probably rightly so, called out Doc Rivers, say that you quit on the team and then and pretty much I'm like, Bill, no, if pretty much Doc reserved the right to think about going to another team. I think if Doc stayed there for at least for the season, he wouldn't have not a lot to work with. I mean, if KG, Pierce, and Terry were traded to the Nets before he made his decision, what else is there for the Celtics? I mean, what does Doc have to work with? I mean, he has Rondo, he has Jeff Green, and who else? I mean, for Christ's sake, I mean, Doc pretty much tried rebuilding once, and that really didn't exactly help all that much. I mean, almost got him fired during the 2006-2007 season, and he definitely wanted a new start, and pretty much Danny Ainge wanted to give it to him. So that's my take on that. So, and then the KG, Pierce, and Terry trade to the Nets for a bunch of no-namers and a couple of first-round picks for at least a good couple of years. First-round picks to me usually are high value, depending on where. It doesn't even really depend on where a team is at. I mean, if Danny Ainge does his homework, he does checks his scouting reports pretty much every day, and then with a little bit of some luck, he could actually land a potential superstar to replace the truth. So, and so many of those other names like KG and Terry. In terms of the trade, I thought it was kind of an alright kind of trade. I thought, well, I wouldn't exactly say that the Nets are going to be NBA title contenders, but they'll definitely make the playoffs, depending on where where the Bulls are at. I'm trying to think. The Bulls, the Pacers, the Knicks, because the Knicks are always somehow are always in the picture, even though they always pretty much choke at the end of the season, and then pretty much, yeah. So, and then Brad Stevens. I don't know. I thought it was an okay hire. Pretty much the Celtics are a young team, and they needed a young head coach to lead them. Pretty much, Brad Stevens' resume speaks for itself. He led Butler to two straight national championship games, uh, only to lose by a good couple points against Duke and then against UConn the next year. But definitely a very good, very accomplished coach, and we will have to see what happens, what his mentality and pretty much how he responds to the NBA game, and we'll have to see, because pretty much to me, college basketball is a little bit more slower than the NBA game, mostly because of the longer shot clock, of course, but it's a lot more faster paced in the NBA than the college basketball game. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the Celtics. We'll have to see how far the Celtics will go with Rondo, and then Jeff Green, and then some of the other guys they picked up, like Colton Iverson and Kelly Olynyk, or however you spell his name, and some of the other guys like Chris Humphries, which if you do remember, Rajon Rondo and Chris Humphries getting together in a little bit of a rumble. So I'm pretty sure they'll be like, "Hey, I remember you." Punch, and then I don't think that's gonna happen, but it could be interesting to see what happens with that. But enough with the Celtics. I think what else I was gonna say? The Red Sox. The Red Sox. Oh my goodness! What a complete turnaround! Oh my goodness. If I thought the Red Sox would be at this point last season, I would have been like, "You gotta be joking me!" laugh. So I don't know. I think I'm a little bit surprised about it, of course, but pretty much as a fan, I felt you gotta keep the faith. I mean, remember the 2004 ALCS, keep the faith, and pretty much it paid off, and pretty much the Red Sox are on their way to possibly getting a division title, possibly being a number one seed in the American League playoffs, and then possibly going to the World Series if everything works out for them. So, how about those walk-offs? I mean, goodness gracious, against the Mariners? Come on. Oh, man. So, in terms of John Farrell, I mean, the job that he has done is absolutely remarkable. He has pretty much changed the whole culture pretty much within a good, pretty much a good few months of him being hired. It was a good hire. He's completely changed the pitching mindset that I've had since I've been a fan. I felt that we needed to get more good pitching out of our starters, and that's pretty much has happened. So, pretty much I knew our hitting was going to be there, but pretty much the biggest question for me was going to be the hitting, or actually, excuse me, the pitching. And then with Jake Peavy being traded in a 7-player, 3-team trade, a little bit before the trade deadline ended on the 31st, a couple days ago. So, pretty happy about that. And pretty much all, in terms of the Yankees, pretty much just gets, it's pretty much like a nightmare season for them. What would normally be pretty much a lost year, pretty much within a month. Somehow it's pretty much every Yankee fan's nightmare, with the whole A-Rod situation, their injury situation, their whole hitting situation, their whole age situation. In terms of the whole A-Rod thing, to me, in terms of me being a fan of baseball, I want to see A-Rod get punished and get the lifetime ban. But as a Red Sox fan, oh boy, I want to see the Yankees suffer. Oh my goodness, I want to see the Yankees suffer. Yeah, it'll probably be the latter I want to see. I just want to see. I just want to see justice be brought upon Alex Rodriguez. As much punishment for Ryan Braun. But pretty much that's my take on that. So, this is probably going to be it for the first episode of season 2. I'm not sure about another episode sometime pretty soon. I'm pretty stocked on my work schedule, so we'll have to see what happens with it. Possibly, I think I get a day off sometime on next Thursday, something like that. I'm not really sure. I'll have to think on it, but certainly sometime next week I'll probably do possibly maybe a Liverpool football preview, discuss a little bit some about English Premier League, all that stuff. What else was I going to say? Possibly a little bit of a Green Bay Packer review or preview, and then possibly an NFL preview where I do my predictions and such. So we'll have to see about that. So in terms of this episode, I am done. I will possibly see you all next week, and I will see you all later. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Definitely check me out on Twitter. The Twitter handle is at Darth Tom. Pretty much, there's like a underscore, pretty much underscore between Darth and Tom. So definitely check me out on Twitter. I do post tweets every now and then. I haven't done a whole lot of tweeting this summer, so. But hopefully once the sports world starts to pick up a little bit, I'll definitely post a little bit more tweets. And then also subscribe to my channel. So in terms of singing vids, I'm not sure about that. Maybe I will do it some more, but I'm not exactly sure. Alright, well, I will see you all next week. Peace out.